Hello and welcome to my studio. In this video I'm going to show you how I made this image. Now this still life invokes the feeling and mood of a hot sunny day, and this is achieved with the careful choice of colour, lighting and control of shadows. In this video I'll show how I put this picture together right from the very start. Okay, so where do you start with a picture like this? Well, I like to start with the background. So for the background, what I'm going to do is put a stand right at the very back here. There we are. Now this is a C stand, and I've just put this arm out so it will support a piece of card. And it's that card which will form the background. So this is my piece of card, and I've just attached a couple of clamps to the top of it so I can slot it onto this rod, just like this. There we go. Now I like to use card for this because it gives a very nice smooth surface. You could use background roll, seamless as it's called in America I believe, but card has the advantage that it won't have any ripples in it. And that's a big advantage if you're trying to do this with maybe incident lighting, which we will be using on this background. Okay, so what's next? Well, I think the next thing to do would be to just pop my camera on the tripod, and this is what I'm using. So I'm just using this camera with a 24 to 70 millimeter zoom lens, and on the top of the camera I have this flash sync trigger. Now this is also capable of controlling the energy in the studio flashes. Now the whole thing is tethered into Capture One software. That way it's easy to assess the results and also show them in the video. So I'll just pop that on this tripod, like that. Okay, so with that on there, the next thing to do is set up the camera. Now I'm going to do that through the software, so I'll just turn the camera on, and you can see that the camera has been recognized by the software, and these are all the settings. So at the moment I've got it set to manual mode, and I have a shutter speed of 1/30th of a second with an aperture of 2.8, ISO 100. Now if I were to just take an image at this point, this is the result I would get. And you can see that there is an image of the piece of card and the stand. Now this is showing just what the contamination from the house lights is doing. So I'm not going to actually be using these settings. So the first thing to alter would be the shutter speed. So I can put this up to the sync speed for the camera, which is 1/250th of a second for this particular camera, and that will get rid of some of the ambient light from the studio. But also I'm not going to be using it at 2.8. It's much more likely I'll be using an aperture of around f8, so I'll put that in as well. Now with these new settings I'll take another test. There we are, and with these new settings you can see that there is no image to speak of. Okay, so with that experiment out of the way, the next thing to do would be just to put a light in to illuminate the background. Now in the original image, the bottom of the background was quite a lot brighter than the top. And this was achieved by putting a light along the bottom here so that we end up with a graduated illumination on here, which will mimic what you would see on the horizon of a cloudless sunny day. So here we are. This is what I'm going to be using for the illumination of the background. I have a small studio head here, and that's going into this 4 by 1 foot softbox. Now I've put this on a very low stand, and I'm just going to place this just in front of the background here, like that. Now the idea of this is that it will be illuminating the bottom of this card more than the top. Therefore this bit is going to be brighter than this bit. So I'm not actually even going to point this up at the card. I'm just going to leave it as it is. And we'll just give that a bit of a test, just with an arbitrary energy level, just to see what we get. Okay, so I'll just focus up the image a bit. There we go. And possibly just zoom in ever so slightly, just to see how we're going. Something like that. That will do for the time being, I think. Okay, so with that done, I'll just grab another image. And you can see from that, it's a little dark. We need a bit more energy in the system. So just using the trigger on the top here, I will just select the flash, which is that one, and we'll add 3 stops. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then we'll grab another image. There we are, and you can see that in this image, this is exactly what I wanted. So we've got a nice controlled glow from the bottom up to the top of the piece of card. Okay, so with that done, it's time to put the foreground in. So here we are, I've got this table set up here, just with a piece of wood on the top, and this is going to form the foreground of our picture. Now again, in the original image, this foreground was a sandy colour, and that was achieved with yet another piece of card. So I'm just going to place this card on the table, something like that. We'll just check the composition in the viewfinder. So looking through the viewfinder, I'll just set the card so it's straight, so we have a straight horizon, something like that. And I'm going to just zoom that in a little more, I think, probably all the way to 70. Let's try that. There we go. Okay, so with that done, the next thing to do would be to put the object, the egg, in place. So I'm going to put the object on this card, just so that it's about 1/3 of the way across the viewfinder image. So let's grab the egg. Now in order to make your egg stay upright, what I've actually done is attached a piece of blue tack to the bottom of it. So again, just looking through the viewfinder, I'll try and focus that up a bit. Somewhere around there. And I think we want to be a little more over here, or maybe that way. There, we'll try there for now. I'm just going to press the egg down on the blue tack so it holds in place. Okay, so with all that set, we'll grab another image. Good, now you can see from this it's all starting to come together a bit. We've got our graduated blue background, but we don't have any illumination on the egg. So the next thing to do would be to bring in another light to represent the sunshine. So what I'm going to do there is just bring a light in around here somewhere. There we go. Now this time I'm using a Profoto D2. This is a mains powered 1000 joule studio flash, which has modelling light built into it and so on. So what I'm going to do is just bring that up a little. Just pop it here. And I'll just turn that on. So just at an arbitrary reading, what I'll do is turn off the flash at the back so that we can set this light first, really. That's the idea. So selecting the head at the back, I'll just turn that one off. And we'll just give this a bit of a test. Okay, so you can see from that we're getting a reasonable image, perhaps a little overcooked. I think the highlight's almost blowing out there. But the position of this highlight and the quality of this shadow isn't very good, I don't think. Now that is caused by the distance this is away from the subject. Although it's quite a way away, the head on the aperture on this head is actually about 100 millimeters across. So for this to form a point light source, really it needs to be a bit further away. So what I'm going to do is just move it back a little and up a lot. So I'll just take it up in the air so it's forming a bit more of a controlled shadow. Okay, so in that new position, obviously I've moved it quite a way away, so I'm going to need to increase the energy to get a similar result. So arbitrarily, just looking at the image we captured before, I'm going to take it up by about 2 stops. And we'll take another test image. There we are. You can see from this image that the quality of the shadow is actually quite a lot sharper than we had before. This is what we had before, and this is what we've got now. Now also, because I've moved it away, we've got very little fall off across the surface here. But I think overall the whole thing is a little bright. So I think I'm going to take it down by maybe 1 stop. So let's just take 1 stop off the energy, and this is where the remote control becomes very handy. I don't want to be climbing up a ladder to adjust the light, so I can just do it from here. There we go. We'll grab another image. There, that's much better. That's much more like the sort of thing that I want. Okay, now the light has caught the background, but I'm not that bothered about that because what we will do is add the background light in, which will increase the illumination across the bottom, hopefully. So we'll just turn that one on. So select the head, turn it on, and take another test image. There, that's working quite well. Now immediately I can see that at this side we have a bit of a problem. And you can see that there is a slight black line. I just move around the image a little. At this side, between the blue representing the sky and the sandy colour representing the ground. So at the horizon line here, these are becoming a little separated. Now this is easily fixed. It's basically that this isn't quite covering the gap between the back edge of this and the bottom edge of the blue card. So what I'm going to do is just move this, you don't need to move it very much, a little bit further out, like that. I'll just check that in the viewfinder. Now obviously moving that further away has also made it go slightly out of focus. So we'll just focus that back up again. There we go, that's better. And with all that done, I'll take another test image. There we are, that's much better. I go back to the previous image, you can see the black line there, and there it is all gone. Good. So the next thing to notice about this is that the shadow on this side is possibly a little deep. Now it might be a good idea to try and fill that in a little, and for that I'm just going to use this piece of card, and I'm just going to hold the card in here, about there somewhere, and we'll just take another image. Okay, you can see from that it has actually worked. We've got a bit of fill in here. I go back to the previous image and this one, but the fill in itself is forming another highlight, which we don't really want it to do. Now that is a size issue. It's basically because of the size of this piece of card. So I need a bigger piece of card. So here we are. This is a much larger piece of white card which I've just put on this stand. I'm just going to place this around here somewhere, and we'll just try that image again. There, that's much better. You can see the difference that has made. It's also evened up the illumination across the card on the base here. So at this point, we're very nearly there. The abstract image of a sunny egg is coming together quite nicely. But it's not quite finished yet. Just to add a bit of interest to this, what I did was add some distortion into the light coming from up here with the use of this glass. So I'll just place this around here somewhere, and this will have the effect of distorting the light onto the egg. Now, in order to be able to see what I'm doing, I'm going to turn the modelling light on the flash head, just like that. And to be able to see it a bit easier, I'm just going to turn the house lights out. Okay, so with the house lights out, what I can do is just move this in until it makes an interesting shape. So if I just put it there, for instance, we'll just grab an image and see what that looks like. Okay. And basically you just move this around until it gives you something that you're happy with. But because you've got a modelling light, you can actually see what it's doing. So something around there, for instance, looks quite interesting. And here. There we are. And you can see the random effect that this is having on the image. But always being one for simplicity, what I think I'm going to do is just put this as close as I can get it to the egg and see what that looks like. Possibly a little too close there. Try there. Yep, I quite like that one. I think that's given some very interesting shadows and bits and pieces across the egg as well, and retained the highlight on there. Okay, so with that image now captured, it just remains to go into Photoshop and do any post-production. Okay, so here we are in Photoshop. And there is really very little to do to this image. It's very nearly there already. What we might do is just add a few little bits to enhance it. So the first thing I'm going to do is just make a duplicate layer. So I'll alter the duplicate and leave the background where it is, so I can always go backwards. First thing I might do is just add an adjustment layer. And I'll just saturate the colour ever so slightly with a vibrance and saturation layer. So I'll just increase the saturation ever so slightly. There we go, something like that. Okay, so what else might I want to do? This is possibly a little distracting. This is a shadow caused by the stem of the glass. So I'll just take that out, and I think the easiest way to do that would be to just select that layer and go to the patch healing tool, like that. And this is a very simple tool to use. Basically you just draw around the area you want to alter, like this. And then just drag it to a different position, like that. There we go. Just deselect that. Okay, now that's okay, but it's just left a little ragged edge on the very front. So again, the simplest way to get around that would be just to sample the nearest area, which is going to be around here somewhere, like so. And then just go to the paintbrush and with a fairly small and very soft paintbrush, literally just paint that bit in. So there we go. We'll just alter those bits like that. There. Much better. Okay, so with that bit done, the next thing would be just to address the tiny little bit at the bottom here where you can actually see the blue tack. Again, an easy way to do this. There are lots of different ways, but just for speed I'll just use the patch healing tool, and I'm basically just going to fairly roughly draw a line around this part of the blue tack, like so, and just drag that to a different position, like that. Okay, not perfect, but it's probably near enough for this. Okay, right, so I'll just zoom back out again, and we'll just select a crop. Now I'm going to pick my usual ratio of 16:9, but also because I think 16:9 will actually suit this image very well. So I'm just going to drag the corner handles in. By holding down the Alt key, it will drag from the center, so something like that, and just click on OK. And there we have it. I think this picture has turned out rather well and demonstrates just what you can do with a few bits of coloured card, an egg, and good lighting technique. I particularly like the mood and feeling that this invokes by using the bright saturated colours the way we have. Also, the sharp shadows emphasise bright clear blue skies. Okay, well I hope you've enjoyed seeing how I made that, and if you like watching these sort of things, do click on the other images as they appear, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you very much for watching.